Hello, hello. I guess we could do like other people and play music as people start to come in. We had a great conversation last Thursday. Hey, Carrie, good to see you. Had a great conversation, didn't we? I think that Friday I could not go live. I had an appointment I had to take care of. But we're here now, aren't we? Let's just do this thing. Let's just do this. I'm moving some things around here so I could see you better. See the comments better, at least. There we go. How's that? Good. Good, good, good. So yeah, I really enjoyed the conversation we had on Thursday, and I'm hoping that we can continue those conversations. I'm hoping I might try to see if I can do multi-guest today. They were supposed to notify me when I was able to get to have some guests come up, and hopefully today's the day. I can try to hit that, see if you come up. When we do, I'd like it to be, let's limit it to questions, not so much about your deconstructing story, because sometimes we can get really distracted into long conversations that take us down many rabbit holes, and then it becomes almost like a spiritual care session. And those are better done in a different kind of setting than on a public setting. I always worry that people begin to share too much because they feel so safe in these conversations, and I'm honored that we do so, but I want to be careful about that. So you can feel free to drop a comment where you are, what you're thinking about today, what you would like to hear about. If you have a question or something that you would like me to discuss, we're here. Let's do it. Who's got a question for me today? What do you want to talk about? Sorry, I'm still playing with things on this screen. I'm reading a DM that came in. Yeah, that's a good one. We did talk a little bit about the rapture last week. My heart is with the flotilla mission. Absolutely. How close are they getting, John? So the flotilla mission that's heading towards Gaza. Absolutely. Michigan and North Carolina, Space Ranger, of course. At some time we're going to have to do something about gun violence in this country. They are past Italy. Good. Good. Can you talk about Israel and your thoughts on their actions as of late? Yes, I can, but I'll have to do it in a kind of a muted tone because I'm heavily suppressed here shenanigans when I talk about it. The one thing I can say is that there is absolutely no. If we just reconcile what Trump said when he said what he said during the UN General Assembly, and he talked about how he was disappointed in the continuing attacks, in the continuing, of course he did not call it a genocide in Gaza, but at the same time he's the one who put up the video showing that was going to be completely razed, urban renewal kind of thing with a golden Trump statue in the middle. And there have been other conversations around that the United States has been a part of. What is the second vision for that land? Because it certainly isn't about reconstruction of it for the people who are there. So when you look at the total number of fatalities at now well over 65,000, there is obviously a lot that's happening that's maniacal, horrific, that has nothing to do with anything other than creating a state that annihilates the people who live there now. So that's as close as I can do. When I start having lives on Substack, I have all kinds of teaching notes on that, and I'm really hoping that by early next week, I can start to do that. Shenanigans says, I'm just struggling to understand why the world bows to a tiny little country. It's so upsetting, very much so. And the reason is because of their participation in their cooperation in having a presence there that is not Muslim. That is the reason. So it's a partner inside the international interests of those that more align with Israel, which is why we have funded them more than any other country in the world. Trump likes to talk about how tiny it is, so think about that. Hi, Robin, over on Tube of the U. I see you over there. Thanks so much for coming in. For those of you who are joining me now on TikTok, thank you so much for being here. I hear that the heart me's protect this live. Liking and sharing and tapping are wonderful things that we can that you can do as well. So I really do appreciate that. I saw someone ask me about why I'm not Unitarian Universalist, because I deconstructed. I deconstructed from fundamentalist Christianity, conservative Christianity. I was a Southern Baptist, and once I deconstructed, then I deconstructed to the point where I no longer wish to be affiliated or associated with any type of organized religion. That isn't to say that it doesn't have value and merit for people who find benefit in that or need or seek that kind of community. But I think especially after 2020, everything changed for us. Shenanigans, I got you over here too. Thank you so much for joining me over there. I see you there. Hi, Robin. Thank you for those of you joining me at Tube of the U. It's very important. I think I want to keep reminding you as well that depending on what happens here, I'm not going to be on this platform talking about TikTok when Oracle takes its place. I think we're already seeing some changes here, and that will continue to happen. Aeronautical, you said, would it be appropriate to DM you about California Prop? Is it Prop 50? Is that, and you've been here before talking about that. Yeah, you can. It's actually better to do it on another platform. The DMs here are out of control, and I can't keep up with them. So I would suggest that you go over to Tube of the U or Substack and do it there. I might see it. I'll see it then, and Lynette, the moderator here extraordinaire, will make sure that I see it. JT, I don't know what that means. I'm not 12. Thank you so much, Space Ranger. I appreciate that. That's where also these lives will be in their entirety. They will be uploaded to Tube of the U. So we've had some already really good conversations over here, and those will be uploaded shortly. Twin Play says, hello, it's so good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. I'm just getting caught up on some messages here. I saw quite a few come in. When did your deconstruction process begin? Mine began in 2020 or in 2019. Yeah, I do think that 2019 was a big year. I think for a lot of people, especially when you look at the data, there was a really important poll that came out in 2019. And I'm sorry, it came out in 2020, but it was reflective of 2019 data. So it didn't have anything to do with C19. But it had everything to do with a trend in the church. And based on the data that had been retrieved and assessed in 2019, for the first time, America had more people who were unaffiliated with a church. So that in America, that doesn't mean that they weren't Christian. They didn't say they weren't a Christian. They just weren't going to church. And for the first time, the majority of Americans did not go to church. Now you had a big shift in 2020, of course, where nobody was going because of C-19. And some of that fallout, I mean, certainly the people who would tell you, I don't know for how many years I've been told that you can't be saved, you can't be spiritual, you can't be a Christian without being in church. Well, all of a sudden, those people were singing a different tune when it was mandated that there could be no gatherings, and that included church. So then all of a sudden, oh, you could be a Christian and view the service on TV. It's amazing how Christian patriarchy can align itself to benefit its perpetuity when it's for their benefit. Anything else, they're never going to change. Anything else, and the only reason why there's ever any wiggle room for change is if it has something to do with benefiting them. So, and you know, it actually was a good thing. A lot of people enjoy having services in the comfort of their home. It's a different world today. So I think that there was a shift that was happening prior to C-19 that was cemented after C-19. Now there is some new data out that I haven't had a chance to really look at that's related to mostly Gen Zers, and they're returning back to church. They're getting pulled in back to church. And based on what I'm seeing, there's a little bit of an uptick in their attendance in the Catholic Church, but also, guess what? In the modern American evangelical church, because inside that's where you usually find the megachurches. That's the one that have unlimited marketing budgets, unlimited, and they are the marketing masters. They know how to brand themselves to look like something that they're truly not. Most of them still have affiliations in some way to the Southern Baptist Convention, a highly conservative, highly evangelical, highly problematic. If you're looking for the advancement of human rights, that church certainly isn't your church. But when you look at some of these modern churches with the pastor in jeans and the rock band on stage and the blacked out sanctuary, you would never know that hiding behind the curtain is a very toxic theology. You would never know it. So they're very good at hiding that kind of dogma in order to bring in people with the new modern vibe. What typically happens then is that they're drawn into these pizza nights and these all paid expenses to amusement parks and weekends that where the church fully funds them. And getting these connections and friendships and communities that kids crave. They crave belonging until they feel like they're safe enough to come out. And that's where the collision lies. I recently, just within the last 3 weeks, had a mom reach out to me whose child went to one of those mega churches at a youth group, pizza party, movie night, looking really good. Her son is out loud and proud. And one of the first things that was done to him when he got there, he was taken aside by one of the volunteers who wanted to tell him that he was just confused because more than likely something happened to him as a child where he was essayed and he's confused about his identity within minutes of him being there. On the outside, the facade is really modern, and then they go for the throat. It can be some of the most harmful, toxic theology that causes religious trauma. That's the definition of religious trauma. When you manipulate someone's feelings, emotions, devalue them, invalidate their identity, and make them feel like they have to contort themselves in order to be accepted into that community, is how religious manipulative tactics can harm a person. Let's see. Always be on the lookout for coercive control. Absolutely, Tizzy B. Absolutely. FOAGs, I don't know what that stands for. It's not about religion. It's about a personal relationship with the one who died for your sins. That's just a belief. That's just a belief. Some people don't believe that in that system anymore, or in that belief structure, that the one who died for your sins is Jesus Christ, that kind of atonement theology, where someone actually had to die in order for, because they loved me so much, is actually considered a manipulative, harmful tactic as well. And there are Christians, the very same belief that you have is one that where you then have to look at other Christians who do not believe that. The church right down the street, which may be more progressive, doesn't believe that. Doesn't believe that. So be careful. Oh, I love it. So for those of you who are here who maybe have experienced some kind, he's already been blocked, but his comment is still there. You'll find out when your time comes. That very much is a control tactic of people who are in high control religion. So you might think it's just in evangelical churches, and evangelical churches are the kinds who want to preach the good news. They teach their congregation that it is their responsibility to go out and preach the good news of love and peace that can only be found in your Savior Jesus Christ. If you give your life to Jesus, everything about your problems will be solved. Everything about your life, everything will start to make sense. Even if you have suffering in this world, you can look beyond it, because your day in heaven, your crown in the glory in the presence of God is being formed around you. No weapon formed against you will harm you, because you are in the arms of the King now. I know some of that language is very much speaking to some of you now and possibly triggering you. But then someone who's proselytizing, this is the difference between evangelizing and proselytizing. So evangelizing is with the smile on the face and saying, I want to tell you about the good news of your Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And those are typically the kind of people who are going to knock on your door with a little bookmark in your hand, or a little Bible that they're going to give you, and a little packet, and says, come to our vacation Bible school, come and visit us. We just want to love on you like Jesus loves everyone, right? Proselytizing is threatening. Proselytizing says, I have the right to impose on you my beliefs by warning you that if you do not heed what I say, you're going to regret it. They're both manipulative tactics. They're both very harmful for people who are especially gullible, who are hurting in this world and are trying to find their path. Either place, you can end up in a space where this can be very harmful for you. So when you see it and you actually start to deconstruct from it, it doesn't have the same tendrils into your spirit. I'm chill, I'm zen, whatever his name was. It's not going to bother me like it used to, because you can see right through it. It's a teaching opportunity. It's just a teaching opportunity for us to be here together. Yes, Tanya, they want to convert you. And Tizzy, absolutely. They want you to be afraid. Petrified people are easier to control. They're easier to control. They're easier to manipulate. They're going to donate their money. They're going to make you feel obligated to prioritize the needs of the church over the needs of your family and your well-being. I bet you there are people watching right now, if it weren't you, who know people who actually gave money to the church before they paid rent. Who know people who, instead of buying the groceries for their kids, they tithed. Because that is a very manipulative, powerful mindset where you believe that the only way you deserve God's favor is if that money goes to the church. And the church has taught you from day one that its proximity to heaven is your link to salvation. It's pretty toxic stuff. And when you see it, you can start to deconstruct and heal from it. Tanya says, my uncle right now is in Guatemala doing good things, but in hopes to convert them. Yeah, we could start talking about mission trips if you want to, because this whole thing of, and I'm not saying this about your uncle, Tanya, I don't know which way you pronounce your name. But oftentimes your uncle very well may be qualified for the work that he's doing there, but oftentimes they are not. It's an opportunity to bring in a bunch of unskilled, unqualified, naive young people to go to a different country to do work that it would be better off if you paid the people there who are oftentimes underprivileged, uneducated, undernourished, underserved because of colonization. So when you see that toxic pattern, that more than likely, because when you look at what they call developing countries or third world countries, oftentimes they are in that space because of colonization. So the very people who benefit from their demise are now going back with handouts. This is where this white savior complex comes from, and why it's so toxic and dangerous. Robin, I'm not sure what you mean. Then you can come on lives and shame folks. I think that is fascinating. Are you talking about FOAGEEZ? Oh, hi, Dob. I was supposed to go live a couple hours ago, and I just got around to that. I had some things I needed to take care of. Tanya, then he will come home and say settle racism against Muslims. Absolutely. Absolutely. Carla, hi. Was looking for your page the other day. Glad to find you again. Well, I'm glad you did. Be sure to set your notifications and be sure to come in here as often as I can. My goal, as long as my time, Robin is being funny. She's a friend of yours. Okay, Robin, thank you. I thought you were. I thought I recognized your name. I thought you were. I just caught it. And I thought you were talking about that guy because, man, he came in hot and heavy, didn't he? All of a sudden he was like, I'm going to tell you, because I think he knew he was caught. Don't you think? I think he knew he was caught, and I was already onto his tactics. So he was going to hurry up and get in here that you're going to be sorry one of these days if you don't listen to me, because I'm not lying. And, to that point, many of them don't think they are. They really believe this stuff. They believe that they're terrified for themselves and they are worried about your soul because that indoctrination is so real. That goes along with what we saw last week with the whole rapture thing that was happening. So even though religious psychosis is a diagnosis, this was religious psychosis-like. So people who are telling you that you're going to regret this someday when you meet your maker are very much exhibiting that type of behavior. Now, some of them do it because it's a power trip. So with cash, I'm going to aeronautical. I don't know why you can't comment. I don't know what's going on there. Marco says, preach, you're spreading the word that Jesus would have stood by today. Why, thank you. I'm honored. I do, this whole, what they say, the mystery, whether you want to seek the mystery of who Jesus was. I really like the book Zealot. I think it's by Reza Aslan. Lynette, can you look that up, please? Talks about Jesus the Zealot. Like, this dude wasn't afraid to go in and toss over the money exchange tables, which put him on the radar of the Roman soldiers pretty darn quickly. Then he was a threat because they were allowed, the Roman soldiers were not afraid to allow the corruption to continue in the courtyard, but Jesus didn't tolerate it. So, there are some people who say Jesus didn't exist. I tend to believe he did. So, and I like, there's a book by Thich Nhat Hanh also called Being Buddha, Being Christ. I'm maybe one word off, but I'm pretty sure that's the title. I love that book as well. I love that book because it talks about the similarities in the teachings. So it's very gentle. It's very calming. And it also, especially for those of us who have this, who are learning to live with a deconstructing mindset. We came from this high control religious indoctrination that told us Jesus was the only way. The Bible is infallible. Don't question your church leaders. When you read those kinds of books, it starts to allow those layered indoctrinations to fall away in a gentle, loving way. And there's no other monk more gentle than Thich Nhat Hanh was. So Being Buddha, Being Christ is a wonderful book. And then the Zealot by Reza Aslan is on the other side of the spectrum. And then Adyashanti's book, Rescuing Jesus, I think is the name of it. That book is like kind of in the middle. So all three together is a really good trio of books to read. Dobview says, YT is not as persnickety on NAR as the clock is for content. I have watched many pages cover the NAR here, unlike TikTok. Dobviews, thank you so much. So for those of you who don't know, there is a book I have here, and it's going to be inverted. I'm sorry. It's called, we're going to try it, New Apostolic Reformation. There's never been a time where I can discuss this book where I don't get in trouble for it. So I'm going to post some content over on the Tube of the U and discuss that. But if you're interested, as I am, in history, which informs us on why we're here today, that book is very important. So if you're looking at understanding Jesus through the lens of a mystical spiritual understanding or other ways he's been through scholarly research or other beliefs, then those three books I mentioned, and also Bart Ehrman's How Jesus Became God. All four of those are really, really good books, and it kind of helps you just gently come out of your deconstructing journey into a space where you can feel safe to start asking questions and looking at different ways to see what is your spiritual truth now that you've deconstructed. I see, Amy, you're asking why deconstruct. Allison answered, and I like that answer. It helps us to understand Jesus more, but for many of us, it's also more about how we were treated or ignored or manipulated while we were inside organized religion. Had we had an experience that allowed for questioning, that allowed for room for doubt, that allowed for discussion on the hypocrisy that's found in the Bible, if we had that a kind of experience, I don't think that some of us would deconstruct. But for so many of us, we were not only not allowed to ask those questions, we were punished if we did. So it's not like many of us decide, we start off saying, you know what, I'm going to do this church thing for a while. And then one day, oh my goodness, someone just gave me flying jets. Thank you. I've never seen those before. Thank you so much. It's not so much that we start our spiritual journey. We many of us are hardworking Christians. We've done the work. We've been baptized. We're elders. We're leaders. We start new programs. I don't know how many children's programs I started. in the various churches where I served. It's not that we were church shoppers. It's not that we were doubters. We were integral to the life of the church. But when you're sitting that close to leadership, and you can also see the hypocrisy in what happens in that leadership, and you start asking questions, then all of a sudden you're the troublemaker. Then all of a sudden the eye's on you, that you have a spirit of offense, because it's easier to quell the person and try to bring them into submission than to actually be held accountable for what you see. And we saw it consistently. One person may be punished and admonished for their behavior, but if it was inside the inner circle and the leaders or the family members of the church leaders, nothing would be done. I know someone when she was pregnant as a teenager, was brought up front of her in her church with her then boyfriend, made to apologize, said they would not marry them. But then in a few months, when the pastor's daughter became pregnant out of wedlock as a teenager, the church threw her a shower. It's that kind of hypocrisy that finally leads you to say, I no longer want to pretend that this has anything to do with whatever God they keep shoving down my throat. That somehow I'm the problem. So I don't think anybody ever starts out saying that it is in my best interest to deconstruct. One of the hardest days of my life was the first Sunday after leaving church. That was one of the hardest days of my life. I sat on my front porch and I cried because I may have left, but I brought along all of those indoctrinated beliefs with me. First of all, I thought I was going to go to hell because I wasn't in church. I really believed that to be an obedient Christian, you had to be in church. So I didn't know what I was doing. And if it weren't for those books that I just mentioned to you and many of the books that John Shelby Spong had written, I began to see that my spirituality was not contingent upon church leaders' approval. My spirituality had nothing to do with me being submissive to a Christian patriarchal structure that only benefited those in power. I was a tool. I always say I was useful because I was usable. But when I was no longer usable, I was disposable. And that's the truth about patriarchy, especially women. Women who benefit from it must be compliant to it and obedient to it in order to be able to benefit from that patriarchal structure. Let's see what we say. Views, do you think daytime heavily bent toward extreme right wing is lacking a voice that is grounded in reality and actual Jesus teaching? Was listening to channel on way home full of bent ideology? Probably. I don't watch a lot of, you're talking about daytime TV, Views. I want to make sure I understand. If you could land a supportive channel, you would be perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't, if things keep going the way they are in this country, thank you, Views. I appreciate that. Well, we are going to bring back my podcast, and it's just a matter of timing right now. But the first thing I'll be doing is reading my writings that I'm posting on Substack. So if you're interested in those will be there, and the podcast is available on Spotify. Lynette, is it also on our website, revkarla.com? I'm not sure. Allison says, I never had a transformational experience of Christ within the institutionalized church. That's very common. No, I did not. Melissa, I did not hear about the Moonies being arrested, but that doesn't surprise me. Tanya, you understand the church trauma, right? I mean, a lot of times people hear my story and it sounds so familiar. That's why I think a lot of my writings on Substack have been so powerful for people. They help them with understand and validate their experience. So when people say, When people say something like that person who said, why deconstruct? It's not so much like we decide to change our hair, or we're going to go get a tattoo, or we decide to sell our house and move someplace. It's not that kind of decision. It's often because we're forced to reconcile something that's very sacred to us, that's no longer being revered and held as sacred inside the institution that is basically your identity. So the crisis is real. Many of us have to come face to face with who we are, and we're often doing this by ourselves. Hey, Mary Beth. It's we question why to God, yeah. And first we question what's wrong with us. We usually feel like it's our fault when we leave. It's our fault. Something had to have happened. And then we realize that there was nothing wrong with us. That if we had been valued, if we had been allowed to seek understanding beyond what we were being taught, for many of us, we might still be in church. I don't know about this now, but Aaron says this was the first 6-minute video we did for the Harris. Aaron, I don't know what's happening there. I'll make sure that you all are talking to each other, or two with you. I'm not sure what's happening there. I don't know if I'm supposed to answer something there, or y'all are in your own conversation. Melissa says, deconstructing and parenting at the same time is so hard, like grasping at straws. I want to tell you something, Melissa. That is probably the number one question I get about how to parent when you're no longer going to church. And I have hesitated doing anything with that because I've often felt unqualified. Partly because, even though I deconstructed decades ago, sometimes I still have things rise up about a value system that I forced it down my own kids' throats based on those Christian beliefs. And they may seem subtle now, but they really were toxic at that time. I write about, having Christmas ornaments that I hand choose each year, but the narrative I always placed on them for my kids was that you will get these when you're married. Like somehow the only way I could see my kids was through the lens of getting married. That showed that they had made it, that they had succeeded. And I wasn't going to reward them with something that was inherently theirs. I picked them out for them, and I made them very unique for each child. They weren't going to get them until they had achieved that. So you can see that's a toxic narrative that you place over your kids, that they immediately feel pressure for something that's not theirs to carry. So that I often very much regret that, those kinds of things that I must have said that go far beyond just Christmas ornaments. So I've often felt unqualified, but I've had a recent situation come up that's closer to home where I feel like it's time to write some things for parents that will help them with some of those, at least from the adult perspective, on how you handle some of the questions of who or what God is, and what to do if they're invited to church, and if that's important to them, and what to look out for. And that's different than what you're going to say to a 5-year-old versus what you're going to say to a 13-year-old. Okay, Aaron, thank you. I'm glad. That's Lynette handling you over on Tube of the U, so I appreciate that. For those of you who've been liking and sharing, thank you. Continue to do that. I hear that those little heart me's are really important. So continue to help us here stay relevant and push us on out. Now, have I missed any other questions here? I'm going to go through real quick and see. Rachie, do most Christians actually believe the teachings, or is it just more conformity? It depends. Yes, please. Even going from black and white thinking to more neutral parenting. Yeah, I think so. Okay, I'll think about that. I don't want to get down a rabbit hole here, but I think you. I'll do. I got lots of thoughts on it. Okay, back to Rachie. Rachie, I hope I'm saying your name right. Do most Christians actually believe the teachings, or is it more just conformity? I do believe many of them do. Now, I will say this. I don't think as many leaders do. I think there's more leaders who are in it for the game, who are in it for the money, who are in it for the benefit of the power. And if you look at the statistics, if you go to hold on, let me find this. Kristen Browde, Browde. No, I didn't see it, Hales. We'll grab it in a minute. Kristen Browde is an attorney. I don't know their pronouns. They are here. They're on TikTok, and for several years, let me see if I can find it. For several years, they did a spreadsheet. Let's see who's making news. If I ever get organized, that would be a driving force. Who'smakingnews.com. Who is making news.com. Who is making news.com. And what this is showing you who the real predators are. Now, I'm going to come back to your question, Rachie, but when you look at the number of people who are connected to some church leadership, whether it's through clergy or any kind of affiliation with the church, that is by far the number one perpetrator of harm to children. And she has the data. They have the data from years proving that. And so you have to take that into account when we talk about belief. When we talk about what do Christians believe, I think that there are many leaders who are just very charismatic. They have the gravitas. They are narcissists, sociopaths, psychopathic personalities who know how to live largesse and very much convince people to come into the fold. And you feel like you're among greatness. You feel like you're among the sacred, the powerful, the godly. And when they're not. That has to be part of the conversation when we're talking about what people believe. So putting aside church leadership, those who are indoctrinated into it believe it. How else are you going to get Jim Jones with 900 people to fly over to Guyana if they didn't believe it? Now, somebody listening to that is going to be me saying that, say, I'm insulting them by equating their beliefs to that. Well, it depends on what level of belief you are. I'm not saying everybody is in that cult-like thinking, but it's a short path from believing in the conformity of your belief system and how high control it is. The last church that I came from was picking partners for the younger generations. They were saying who they could and could not date. They were telling people if they could or could not go to college, or whether they should go into their ministry program at church. I'm not kidding. This is happening right now inside some of these churches. And I know some of you listening know this is happening. So it is a short walk from saying, I believe everything that's in the Bible and every word that comes out of my pastor's mouth, to I will force my beliefs on my kids, and then I will vote a certain way to ensure that if my pastor says these people are evil, then that's how I'm going to vote, because they certainly are related more to the devil than they are to human beings. All you have to do is go look at some of the things that Paula White has said in the past 2 years about Donald Trump. She's his spiritual advisor. She's very much a Pentecostal, apostolic, evangelical Christian. And I think at the beginning of the year, she said in a clip, a vote against Donald Trump is a vote against God. A vote against Donald Trump is a vote against God. That is indoctrination. That is conformity. And that is the dog whistle, the shot across the bow, if you will, that's saying conform. Submit. Don't question. Submit. That is exactly how they manipulate them. Now, not everybody believes that, and I believe you are seeing some people who are pulling away from that kind of ideology. You will always continue to see people deconstruct. Something will snap them. It will happen as fast as we need it to happen before we fall directly face first into fascism. I don't think so. I think we are running out of time to we are literally going to have to do something really, really quickly when it comes to some kind of massive movement, some kind of commerce interruption to make sure that people understand that we're not going to obey in advance. And it's going to have to come from us to do that. Hi, Liza Marie. It's good to see you. Davview says I was pulled on YT. Davview says I was pulled from my studies in ministry and told I could only work as a youth music minister. Exactly. This kind of thing happens all the time. Consciousness shift. Yes, galactic overlord. Did you get the other question? Guitar Man, we don't talk about our beliefs here like that. Let God handle it. What are you talking about? When it comes to fascism, we're just going to roll over and pretend it doesn't. Someone said I missed their question, and I'm not sure if I got it. Thank you for the follows. I appreciate that. Yes, they'll submit to each other. Lynette, feel free to just block away. Trump is cosplaying. He has said in the past he's not a Christian. Liz, that's a very good point. I don't think he would know the Bible from a roadmap. Okay, sorry about that. They go by really quickly, even with just 100 people in here. So sometimes it's hard for me to see, especially when I'm looking at both chats, and I just want to make sure I capture everybody. Thank you. I can tell that some of you are still out there tapping and sharing and liking the live, and I know that does help. So thank you very much. We're going to try to bring up, just so I can see if this works. I'm only going to be on for about another 20 minutes or so. I gotta get a water drip. Guitar Man, you're welcome to stay in here if you want to learn, but at the minute you start proselytizing or evangelizing, you're gone. Let's see what can happen. Oh, let's see. Lynette, I'm gonna try. Where did you go? You were just right there. I'm gonna try to invite you up. Did it work? Lynette, can you say something? Can you all see that I have a little symbol there where Lynette came up in the TikTok shop? Oh, I can't hear her. So there's something, you can hear her and I cannot hear her. So we have hang on. Lynette, can you say something now? You can hear her, Liza Marie. You maybe can't. Try again. Okay, I just clicked on something and it didn't work. Lynette, say something. Okay. Well, that is beyond my pay scale. It's echoing now. Okay, hang on. Now is it echoing? Am I echoing or is she echoing? Hello, hello. I'm sorry, I guess I should try. She's echoing. Okay. So, Lynette, if you have a headset in, you're going to echo. So you may want to try. I cannot hear her. So I don't know what on my end. I'm in the studio and I don't know what's wrong. I'll tell you what we'll do before we go live tomorrow. We'll do a test live and try to figure it out. We'll have to bring in my tech support. Robin, thank you so much for being over on the Tube of the U. And one more reminder, if you haven't followed me over there, have her go out and request again. Let's do that. Well, she's going to have to do it herself because I can't bump her. Oh, wait. It said invite to unmute. My thing's, okay, we're going to try it again. We're going to try it one more time. Just hold on just a second. This will be the last time because I have a couple things I want to talk to you about before I go. I can't find her at all now. She's gone. She's gone. Might have kicked her out. Is anyone worried about the government taking control of TikTok? Rachel, yes. Yes. So it's not just the government. It's also the people who are complicit. So if Oracle is going to be involved, Oracle is affiliated also with Palantir. Palantir is owned by, even though they say he's no longer affiliated with the day-to-day operations, Peter Thiel. So now you have not just Facebook and Instagram being run by a billionaire. You have people with special interests to control the algorithm in the favor of those who support a fascist America. And Larry Ellison is, and it will also be Rupert Murdoch. So do the math there. Rupert Murdoch is supposedly going to be one of the owners of TikTok. The owner of Fox News or the founder of Fox News is going to be the owner of TikTok. So do the math. So here's what I predict is going to happen. When it happens, you're going to have about 90 days of really, really fun time. Think TikTok 2020. Just how much fun did we have with TikTok 2020? Where everything was being pushed and everything was being promoted and it was just all fun and games until they started to dial in the algorithm to promote a certain type of creator and also push their shop. It's their business. They can do whatever they want. I think you'll see that to get people to try to stay, because there's no way that a business person's not looking at this for some kind of monetization. And then they'll start to dial it back. I think it'll be quick because Trump is impatient. And the sooner that he can mute left-leaning voices, anybody who's ever said anything that's a liberal, leftist, progressive, anything like that, we will be muted. Will be gone. And absolutely any Democrat, anybody in politics, their accounts will not be seen by anybody. So it'll end up being just another truth social is what I believe. And so the best we can hope for is that we will have some kind of place on some of the remaining platforms, whether that's Blue Sky, Skylight, YouTube, and Substack. And that Substack just got a massive financial infusion by another Trump supporter. So it'll be interesting to see what happens to that platform, which has been very open and not very, you haven't had any problems making content without having to use coded language. It sounds like you're talking like a fifth grader. So it'll just be interesting to see what happens with that. as time goes on. Yeah, Liza, I am over there, and I have a good presence over there. The problem is the text limit makes it so that you have to be really punchy, and it's hard to engage. So your text limit on what you can post, and then how you can respond. But so far, I haven't had any problems with it being suppressed over there. So let's see. Oh, okay, Melissa, now you're really pushing me. Discord, come on. I'm a boomer. I know so many people are using. Can you tell I'm whining? Now I'm whining like a 12-year-old. I haven't done much with Blue Sky, Allison, but it'll be worth going to look at it. I tried this Discord for a hot minute, but however it ends up being, I'll do it for y'all. What's best for us, I'll absolutely consider it. How's that? Boomer and age only. Haha. Thank you, I guess. Sometimes my body will tell you otherwise. Monica, with talking about the changes that's happening in TikTok, just knowing that given what I think it's going to be, I won't stay here. Especially if we have to start over, I am not doing that. This thing has owned my life, and I'm not saying that from as a victim. I've chosen this. I've had a wonderful time, but it has been a lot of work for 5 years. It has consumed my time. Yeah, you're the more savvy boomer. Some people call me a Jen Jones, but then they don't want me in there if they're friends with my daughter, who's definitely a Gen Xer. So I just stay as a boomer. It's just easy. It's just easier. You're a millennial, Melissa. I'm not sure about Discord either. Yeah, there's a couple. Yes, Diane, what we're going to be doing. So Diane's asking, would you occasionally post on YouTube? Sorry, once again, the little neurodivergent just caught me there. Liz, it's not bashing. I'm one of us. So we're not bashing. I promise. I can joke about ourselves. What was I going to say? See, here I go again. These lives in their entirety will be posted over there on YT, and then also shorts and clips of them. So if you ask a specific question and we can make it into a clip, those will go over there as well as some of those will get posted here on TikTok too. I think I've about run my limit on making a lot of educational videos here that only get a couple thousand views. So I think my time is better spent someplace else. My first love is writing. That's how I started back in 2015, was just writing. I used to do a series called From My Prayer Bench, and I literally would just sit and let whatever was going to come, and then I would write about it that day. And getting back on Substack and being back in that element has certainly helped me at a time where I really needed to do something different than just making videos all day long. So, but at the same time, I'm so grateful for the connections, for the community that TikTok has brought me. And I mean, obviously, it's changed me. It's changed so many people. But there comes a time where it's time for change. It's time for change, and this, I think, is this is the time. John, I meditate. I do blessings, and I'll set intentions with a mindfulness to expand, to connect with the universal divine creation, the mystery of it. But I don't pray like I did when I was a Christian. Yes, let go of what no longer serves you. Have you heard me say that before? I say it a lot, and it's very true. People will look at that often and say, well, oh, how convenient for you to let go of, because some people view their belief as a burden. They think that suffering should be a primary experience of carrying the burden of your faith, that without suffering, something's missing. And that's very intentional, because if you can get a person to believe so much in a God that is waiting for them to join them in heaven, and you can distract them from the pain of the world and suffering of the world, then that person is no longer feeling responsible for the suffering of their neighbor. They internalize it and become obviously quite selfish to only think of what's going to happen when they finally are in the presence of their Lord and Savior and they have relief. So that becomes a very, very powerful, useful tool to the Christian patriarchy. I mean, I don't know how many times I don't know how many times I heard people mock some of the work of nonprofits. If it didn't have anything to do with Jesus, why are you doing it? The animals can suffer. The earth can die away. It's all going to be destroyed anyway when Jesus comes back. We're going to have heaven on earth. Why care about any of it? Poison all the water you want. Kill all the animals no matter how you want. Factory farming, what's the big deal? Who cares if they suffer? Jesus is coming back, and we don't have to worry. We have dominion over the earth. We can do whatever we want. If you all understand that language, then you would understand how terrifying Mike Pence is. Because every time that man opens his mouth, he is whistling dog whistles to that compliant base. His language is all about dominionism. His language is all about manifest destiny. His language is all about prioritizing the Christian experience and the Christian narrative. He is through and through a Christian nationalist. When people talk about him being a hero for not upending the 2020 election, he is not, my friend. He just thought that he could get done the same agenda that Trump wanted to get done without throwing out the Constitution. He didn't see any need for it, because you can gaslight a massive amount of people to do your bidding, believing that God's going to be return and be really happy that you annihilated the rights of half of America. Women don't need rights. The LGBTQIA plus community doesn't need rights. There's no other religion that belongs in school other than Christianity. That's Mike Pence. Yeah, I go off on a tangent on him all the time. I was taught that in an evangelical cult, give all your money because the end is coming anyway. Yes, exactly. What's interesting, though, is how many people actually gave that believe that gave their money when they thought the rapture was going to happen. How many of them gave everything away? Yes, being attached to the material world, it's there all the time. I don't know how many sermons I heard about, what about Jesus? Abuse, yes, we don't reflect Jesus if we don't suffer with him. Absolutely. Absolutely. Personification of empathy itself, yeah. Oh, hi. Hi, authenticity is your power. I hope you're doing well. You reached out to me at just the right time. I'm sorry I couldn't respond. I had some stuff going, but thank you. And I see your other question, Rev Karla. I wanted to ask you, the only way I understand Jesus dying for our sins is that connected to personification of empathy itself? I'm having trouble following, and I can't bring up guests. I can't hear you. Can you save that for next time? Or maybe if you can try to retype it if you're still here. Hi, Sams. It's good to see you. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Hello, I'm an atheist, but I appreciate your brand of religion. I appreciate that as well. You know, people freak out and they say, you had an atheist tell you that they like you. How do you feel about that? And I'm like, that's the way it should be. It's the way it should be. You know what my favorite pastime is? Is to listen to NG Growth, Thinker here on TikTok, and Deconstruction Zone, or Justin, debate apologists. Now, they're both atheists now, but don't say they weren't Christians. They were in it. They were in it, and they have studied. They'll go up against anybody. But to hear them debate an apologist, because it's healing for me, and I'm not afraid of it. I don't need to believe in that God anymore that cannot be reconciled to a book that is flawed. And do you think that there was a time where I would have been terrified to let those words leave my mouth? Absolutely. But if we can't question the very thing that for many of us sustains us, then what are we doing here? Are we all 5 years old thinking that we believe in Santa Claus? Apologies for those of you who do. But we're adults. We should want to question. We should want to figure out, how do we reconcile what science discovers and this thing inside that's pulling us forward, that we're trying to understand the who and what and where we are and where we came from. Because for some, they get to a place of peace with atheism, but for me, I can't. Something still compels me on. But I'm also not afraid to say that someday that could lead me to be closer to an atheist than someone who believes in some kind of divine unity, divine expansiveness, divine mystery. I don't have the language for it because I believe that whatever it is defies human understanding. We don't have the same language we did 500 years ago or 1,000 years ago, because we continue to expand our knowledge. Our language changes. And for me, I'm content with not knowing what that is. I would rather have you come out of deconstructing with being at peace with questions that you can't answer, and let that be your spiritual path, than to have you come to me and say, I have the answers for you. That's not spirituality. That's you just looking for another guru. Because Christian patriarchy taught you that that's what spirituality was. And it isn't. So the best thing that I can come up with now is, if I can't reconcile my lack of understanding of who or what this divine entity or being or creation or energy is, then the best I can do is just ask questions and do the best good that I can here while I'm here. That my spirituality is more tied to my humanity than it is anything else. So if I can leave this place a little better because I was here, that's far better than anything I ever did and who the person I was when I was in church. I'm a better reflection of a kinder and compassionate human being, unchurched and non-Christian, than I ever was in church, ever. And I worked hard. There were times where I was at the church 7 days a week. I had more keys on my key ring related to the church than I did my own family, my house, cars, whatever, because I did the work. That means nothing. That just means I was usable. Because unpaid labor, at least for those who aren't related to the church leadership, is how you continue to perpetuate a system that benefits those in leadership and no one else. And if that serves you, good on you. Muslim agnostic, worried of consequences of unconscious bias and confirmation bias merging with dogma. How did you get all of that in one comment? That is impressive, S. I hope someday I can figure out the guest pen and you will come up and spend some more time talking to me about that. Diane, thank you. You make so much sense. Some days I do. Some days I do. Top sources you would recommend. Abuse, I did say some things. We do have the Lynette, my moderator, will, and my lovely daughter, by the way, will pin where I have some resources. We're also creating a source document where a lot of these things, because especially they come up during the lives, that's going to be live. We'll let you know when that's live, and you'll be able to go right to my link and be able to source that. You also said, as someone who is deconstructing Christianity but still have belief in a higher power, what are your... Okay, I see it. Never mind. It was the rest of yours. I'm pagan and love you. Thank you, Peggy Joe. I think oftentimes I did not see the comment you pinned, Lynette. I love Jesus and I love atheists. Good for you. Yeah. This is so good. All right, I think we're going to start to wind this down. I watched the documentary Bad Faith the other night. It was eye-opening. Do you find it accurate? Absolutely. Design Girl, yes. Bad Faith, the book, and Bad Faith, the documentary are two. It's around here. I'm glad you guys can't see my desk. It's under my iPad. Bad Faith, the book. It's also a documentary. It's accurate. So what you have there is the story talking about the history of basically the birth of Christian nationalism. Well, it goes beyond, it goes farther than that, because then you would have to look at the family, and that's a documentary on, I think, on Netflix. But Jerry Falwell and Paul Weyrich, and how they came together to contrive the moral majority. And that's when you started to see the alignment with Ronald Reagan. They needed someone who could help them create a narrative and an enemy from within. And that's when you start to see the religious right tie with politics, but also create the narrative about women's rights and abortion. And so... In there you see, like it in 73, when SCOTUS ruled that abortion was a right of women. Even as late as 76, the Southern Baptist Convention voted at their annual convention that the right to an abortion was between a woman and her doctor. But you see that shift when Weyrich and Falwell put a plan together, because they needed this group of evangelicals were apathetic when it came to voting. And they knew that if they were ever going to change anything, they were going to have to get them to vote, because civil rights was changing the landscape in America. So if you have women out here now being proven leaders, living independent from men, and you have the historically oppressed Black, Indigenous, and people of color, immigrants, and the LGBTQI plus community, whose rights were really just starting to come on at that time. They did not like the landscape that did not put the white Christian man at the head of everything, the family, the church, and government. So that Bad Faith tells that story, and it walks it through very, very succinctly till you see to today. So yeah, we can we can talk about that some more too. Guided her husband by astrology. I didn't know that, Liz. I did not know that. Have I missed anything on Tube of the U? Okay, y'all, we're going to start wrapping this up. I want to tell you about my 3 latest writings over on Substack. I have one called From Laughter to Silence, How Tyranny Walks In, Finds Its Seat, and Terrorizes. This one is going to be posted tomorrow. And this is where I talk about the patriarchal playbook of Trump. And what I do is talk about how in 2018, when Trump spoke at the General Assembly, he was laughed at. He came in and he said something about he has done more for his country than almost any other administration, and they laughed at him. This year, he stood up there for an hour and spewed lie after lie after lie, and no one said anything. And so this is an important conversation personally for anybody who's dealing with some kind of patriarchal structure, whether it's in your home, your church, in your job. You see that there's a close connection to patriarchy and a bully. Patriarchy is often the foundation of any of authoritarianism, fascism. It is it's the foundation where it always centers male leadership. So it's important that you understand that will be posted tomorrow. Yesterday's was called Stop Telling Me to Seek God. He Knows Where I Am. So this one, you will see it. We've had to block a couple of people here where we talk about how they want to proselytize to you and do it in a way that's actionable. It's your responsibility to find this God. And it can't be just any God. It's the God that they believe in. So I push back pretty hard on this. I tell a story about my childhood and go in to give you some snarky little Rev Karla style comments to push back on some of those things. And then on Friday, I posted, this one is called Leave This One for the Morning. And this is really about self-care. It was inspired by the words of Heather Cox Richardson, where, if you're following her, those writings get really heavy. And in the comment after she wrote something where it was just bam, 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 so many things happening so quickly, she said, this one can wait till the morning. So in other words, she realizes we're all just frazzled. This is intentional. This is part of the fascists' rule to confuse you, to confound you, and to make us believe that we do not have any control or any power when we absolutely do. But self-care is also very important. Pressing time for pause. What do you need? What do you need in this moment? Like right now, I need water. I can always tell my voice gets horsey. So if you enjoy writings, you can find me over there. I would appreciate it if you would subscribe. There's a free option, nothing you have to pay for either place at YouTube or on Substack. A couple comments I see coming in that we're going to call it a day. Mary Beth says, since creation, the white man made every day about them by oppressing others. Absolutely. You said it. They laughed then. They should have walked out on him like they did Netanyahu. Absolutely. But the problem now is they are facing down tariffs. He too has worked on the global stage as well. They're facing tariffs and they are facing consequences. So even though somebody at that time that was sitting in that assembly listening to his speech texted a reporter and said, what is America doing? Do they not see that he's insane? And yeah, we do. At least some of us do. And even the people who support him know he's crazy. But they are he's advancing an agenda that they support. So they don't care. They don't care what the world thinks of them, whether it's part of this movement about Christians believing that this is the end of the world and these things just must pass so that the conditions are met for Christ to return, or it's the oligarchs that are manipulating the system and Trump and J.D. Vance are puppets and they're the puppet masters. It's a little bit of all of this happening. It's all of this stuff happening in the background. And the global leaders that were there know this. So they're looking at this and sitting there and knowing he's lying, but they too are now starting to come into compliance. They too are obeying in advance. And if you don't know the 14 tenets of fascism, there's also this book called How Fascism Works. If you haven't read this, read it. And then you can also find the 14 tenets of fascism. I went down a rabbit hole the other day with the 14 tenets of fascism, and I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not ready to. Mary Beth says, actually heard someone say he has the best policies. Who cares if he is crazy? Yeah, who cares if he's crazy and runs his mouth? Mertzi needs some attention. The radical far left is the evil. Sure, sweetie. Liz, the art of intimidation, not the art of the deal. Yeah, he's incompetent. He's been propped up for so many years by his father's wealth and a lot of people who just realized that they would not defy him, whether it was his spouse or his employees or whatever. He has always been that kind of person. And when you look back at some of his videos from the 80s, he's never changed. He's never changed. Here you go. So Brendy's here telling us to repent. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. John the Baptist says it best. Okay, so Brendy can now be blocked, and we can talk once again about the difference between proselytization and evangelizing. Either one of them is still a toxic, manipulative tactic that's intended to incite fear into you and somehow equate that to love. So it would be like somebody saying, look, I love you and I want to invite you to dinner, and if you don't, then you're going to regret it the rest of your life, and I'm going to make sure that you do. It's that kind of crazy, it's that kind of insane type of belief system that somehow you believe in your moral and spiritual superiority, and you have the right to suffocate my right to spiritual independence, my right to autonomy, and come in and start diffusing this. And what they don't realize in these types of situations is that y'all are affirming why we're deconstructing. So for the 3 or 4 people that came in today that wanted to evangelize, keep doing it. Keep doing it, because here you're going to get treated in the manner that you deserve. And the manner that you deserve it's a teaching moment. It's a wonderful opportunity for people to see, do not let these things trigger you. Do not let them get under your skin. If you felt a little pang of panic because someone decided to come in and say that you've got to get right with God because the Bible says so, I'm going to invite you to pause, take a breath, and see what indoctrinated belief is still living inside you that you need to now let go. Because if you're here and you're trying to deconstruct, I want to assure you that you are on the right path for you. There is nothing inherently sacred about a religious belief that says that you must conform to that belief in order to be saved. Those are incompatible. What that is the weaponization of spirituality for the benefit of Christian patriarchy. The only people who benefit from that are the ones who are seeking the next step, which is to get your 10% of gross income. That gets into your pocketbook and teaches you that the most important thing for you to do is to give that money before you take care of your family, before you pay your bills, before you go to the doctor. You give that money. Mike Pence this is my last thing, I promise. I know Lynette needs to get off here too. Poetic, I did try to bring people up and we had an echo and I couldn't hear you. I want you to make sure you come back, dear friend. I want to get you up here as well. During the C19, Mike Pence was often given the task of having the daily updates. And I got to find this clip because it's there. When I'm listening to him one day and he said, we got to get money to, I'm paraphrasing, but it was, we got to get money to the nonprofits. Don't forget to give to your churches. That man, in the middle of one of our biggest national crises, got up and with a few seconds, what came out of his mouth was the prioritization of giving to churches who hadn't been proven to be doing much at that time to help COVID victims, people who needed life-saving supplies, people who needed food, people who needed medical supplies for the people who were physically at risk, who had some kind of disability, people who couldn't, the whole transport system was shut down and they couldn't get where they needed to. But he prioritized the giving of the churches. I have looked and looked for that video. I'm gonna find it to prove that he did it, because I went livid. I was spastic when I heard him do that. But that is what the mindset of an evangelical Christian who is conditioned to never let you forget that you are indoctrinated and you're obedient to that. That's why I said every time he opens his mouth, he's giving dog whistles to those people. He's signaling that everybody thinks he's this Christian moderate when he is absolutely more dangerous, as dangerous as Mike Johnson. 100%. Coughed on me and my, hearth flower, that's horrible. I am so sorry that happened to you. I am so sorry that happened to you. All right, you wonderful, beautiful people. This has been wonderful. I cannot believe we've been doing this for 90 minutes. I cannot believe it. It feels like it's just gone on for 20 minutes, but I can tell my throat is now telling me it's time for me to get off. You people, some of you who go for hours, you are amazing. Okay, so Aaron, it looks like you and Lynette are still in your conversation. Thank you guys. Thank you all so very, very much. It's been an honor to be in this space with you. Thank you for all the amazing questions. We will figure out the guest. It looks like I do have that back. I want to invite you up. Let's have some conversations. Let's talk about the things that we're facing in our country now, and some of your deconstructing questions. We'll do it all together. I will be back tomorrow. I'm not sure about the time. We'll try to get set on a time so we can set an event timer, but set your notifications. Be sure to follow me in all the places. If you're seeing me on TikTok, this is temporary. Something's going to change here, and it's going to be significant. And all of us who talk about anti-fascism, we're going to be suppressed. 100%. We're going to be suppressed. Thank you, Tanya, so much. And thank you all to all of you. Be well. Take a breath. Do something for yourself today to remind you that you're worthy and that you're valid and that you're on the right path. And no one has the right to tell you that your spiritual path is not valid and that you're not a sacred being. Remember, spirituality is not contingent upon religion or anyone's approval. Until tomorrow, beautiful souls, we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now. Okay, YouTube. I'll see you soon.